Last month, this brand spent $88,000 more on Facebook ads. ROAS dropped from a 2.98 to a 2.47, but net profit was up 161% month over month. So if you thought that your goal on Facebook ads was solely to improve your ROAS, you're completely wrong. Now, I've managed over $100 million across Facebook and Google ads, and this is one of the most impressive months I've ever seen working with a client from the jump. And in this video, I'm going to show you the 3 Facebook ad systems I implemented to make scaling possible for this client. These will include how we knew when and when not to scale the ad account, the exact framework and structure we used for weekly ad uploads, and the system that we used to interpret data to understand what type of ads worked and what to produce more of every single week. And I will admit, upon scaling really aggressively for this brand, the owner was a bit nervous, but I'll show you the actual week over week uplift in profit and ultimately how these systems played into our strategy on Facebook ads to having the best sales and profit month for this brand. So before I dive into these 3 systems, I'm going to share a little bit more about this client, what the founder was really looking for, what he was lacking, and then ultimately the 3 systems that we implemented that help close the gap so we can scale confidently. So this client in particular was an outdoor lifestyle direct-to-consumer brand spending around $50,000 a month when we partnered. And like every business owner out there that's ever existed, he just wanted somebody to help him make more profit month over month. But the issue is that there were a few things in the way that were actually going to allow me to do this for him. Number one, he had no idea how to forecast different financial outcomes at different spend and ROAS levels. And all that means is, hey, at what ROAS and spend are we going to actually take home this much money? Number 2 is he was really nervous to scale too quickly and break the algorithm. And then number 3 is there was no real organized way that they were currently uploading creative or figuring out what works for their ad account so they can stop throwing spaghetti at the wall and make sure that the effort they're putting behind creating ads actually mattered and was backed by data. So before we touched a single ad, we had to answer one really important question. What does the business actually need to make a profit? Which is really the first framework we operated by. Know your MER target. So what is MER and why does it even matter? MER stands for media efficiency ratio. And the way you get this number is you take your total Shopify sales and you divide that by your ad spend. And the reason this number matters so much is it's going to be the truest form of return on ad spend. If you look at your return on ad spend in Facebook ads and in Google ads and in Klaviyo, they all want to take as much credit as possible because they're going to create this illusion for the brand that, hey, our platform is the best, spend more money with us. And so attribution is very clunky for several reasons in 2026, but what you cannot fake is total Shopify sales or back-end sales. So whether you have WooCommerce or Shopify, pull the total sales from the back end of whatever payment processor you're using, and then just divide that by ad spend. And number 2 is your ad spend. Facebook will never lie about how much they're actually charging and how much you're paying for ads. So you take your 2 sources of truth to figure out your MER or your return on ad spend. That's the truest form of return on ad spend. And why it matters is because this is the building block to understand if you're actually making money. And I'm going to show you how to do that here in a second. But before I do, I'm going to walk through a quick example of how to calculate media efficiency ratio. And so again, let's just say your total sales on Shopify are 200,000 and you spent 50 grand. Well, sure, maybe not all of this came from Facebook ads, but what you know is that you have a 4 MER, meaning that your spend to revenue relationship is at a 4 ROAS. And so this is going to give you the closest approximation to how much you're actually profiting. And so down here, again, at a high level, it's telling you your business is generating $4 for every $1 investment in ads. And for this brand, we determined specific MER goals that gave us clarity on when to scale and when not to scale. Essentially, we figured out what is our break-even ROAS, and then as long as we're above our break-even ROAS, we can essentially scale because we know we'll be making money. And that alone prevented us from panicking anytime we would see ROAS drop slightly. So now that you know what MER is and why it matters, I'm going to show you a live example now of how to calculate this for your own brand using a spreadsheet that I created that you can have access to for free as well. Just comment and let me know if you want it. So basically what I'm sharing right now is a simple calculation that's going to help you figure out what your break-even ROAS is. And then what this is going to build into is it's going to be a building block that allows us to forecast how much profit we're going to make based on how much we spend on ads and what our MER is. So all you're going to do is take your actual average order value, look year to date, and what is your average order value across your Shopify store. So let's just say it was 100 like this brand, and then you're going to take your cost of goods sold. So on a $100 product, how much does it actually cost you to manufacture and produce it so you can ship it to somebody? So for this example, we're just going to use 20, right? Then we're going to go down and calculate other variable expenses like fulfillment, shipping, returns, processing fees. So what is the average of all that per order? And then last but not least, if you use a 3PL, which is a third-party logistics company, you're going to put the approximate it costs to fulfill one order in there. And when you filled out these costs, what's going to happen is it's going to show you on a $100 product, after you subtract these expenses, you're left with $66, which means your actual break-even ROAS is going to be a 1.52. So if I am getting a 1.6 return on ad spend or MER, then I know I'm making money. And so I can look at my MER now and say, hey, we're not losing money. We can scale up. And inversely, if you're getting under a 1.5 MER, you'll know immediately I am losing money. But just knowing what your break-even ROAS is doesn't really give you an MER goal to shoot for on your Shopify store, because you don't actually know how much profit you're going to be making. And so within this same spreadsheet, you can do your forecasting down below. And what I like to have is two side-by-side scenarios to understand at what different spend levels or MER levels are we most profitable. And so just real fast, the way this forecasting is going to work is it's going to take the unit economics from up above that we just implemented, and it's going to show you if you were to spend $10,000 at a 5 MER, how much profit you would make based on this. Because the way the profit is going to work out is it's going to take your revenue minus all your expenses minus your ad spend now. So at this level of efficiency, we're at $23,000 in profit. But you can see if we're under that profit target, we still make more money as long as we spend more money. And this is why it's very important to know what your break-even ROAS is, because it allows you to forecast things like this. So most people would say we need a 5 ROAS or 5 MER, but in reality, no, you don't. You're actually more profitable as long as you're spending more money. So this gives you the freedom and the actual ability to scale. This is foundational, and this is why I'm harping on this so much. Do forecasting, and it needs to be anchored around your actual unit economics. This was one of the biggest unlocks for this brand. And if you're a business owner right now running ads and you're spending anywhere north of $30,000 a month, and you want to see a month for your brand, just like the one that I showed you I got for this client, this is exactly what I do all day, every day. So hit the link in the description or scan the QR code to see if we're a good fit. Now, knowing your numbers like we just went over tells you when to spend and gives you the freedom to spend, but it doesn't tactically show you what to spend it on or how to spend it. And that's the purpose of the second system or framework, which is the ad uploading framework. And this framework that I'm about to show you is basically the rule book we followed for ad uploads. It allowed us to have a really clear and organized way for creating ads on an ongoing basis, so we weren't scrambling internally and externally trying to get ads on a day-over-day standpoint. It gave us a cleaner ability to test new ads and concepts. It gave us the ability to iterate quickly on what was working. It gave us the ability to iterate well on what is working already. And last but not least, the funnest part is it allowed us to scale quicker. So for us, this is exactly what the structure and the cadence of testing looked like in the ad account. And what we had is just one campaign, and this campaign would have multiple ad sets. Every single week, we would upload 1 to 2 new ad sets. Each ad set would have anywhere from 5 to 8 pieces of creative. So on a weekly standpoint, we were uploading 5 to 10 new ads every single week. In most cases, if you're a brand that's not spending over $100,000 a month, uploading even 5 ads per week is going to be more than enough until you get to a scale that makes sense to scale your creative testing as well. So we were uploading around 2 ad sets every single week. So this is a CBO campaign. Each ad set is going to have a specific theme or angle of creative. So this angle of the creative is going to approach a very specific audience, and the way that you're launching these ads is in an organized way. So let's just say you're really wanting to appeal to people who go to the gym because your product will work really well for them. While all your video and your static pieces should talk to people who go to the gym. The copy should talk to me if I'm a gym goer and hit pain points that I'm experiencing or likely experiencing or will experience, and how your product solves that. And you're going to do the same thing across different personas or highlighting different angles. And so that is the point of creative testing. It is making sure that each ad set has a different theme or angle, because when something actually works, now you know what to scale because each thing is broken out by a theme. And the reason this works so well is because in a CBO sales campaign on Facebook ads, Facebook is going to determine what ads are worthy of spend, meaning you're able to test your creative and scale your creative all in one campaign without wasting tons of money. A lot of business owners make the mistake in thinking if they're building new ads, they have to get a certain level of spend on it to say that they've tested that piece of creative. But if Facebook can still test that creative with minimal ad spend and save you from wasting more ad dollars and just right away shortcut the ability to spend more on what's working and deprioritize spend on what's not going to work, then that is the best ROI mechanism that Facebook has, and so you should utilize it. And so here's a real client example of exactly how it works. What we have is we launched a new ad pack, and what this ad pack did in week 1, it didn't really spend a ton of money, and the performance was but we left it on because it wasn't spending a ton of of money collectively, right? And then week 2, what we saw is Meta started to spend more money on it. It doubled the spend week over week, and the actual ROAS performance started to get better as well. By week 3, it was spending almost 4 times as much as it did in week 1. We didn't even touch it. We just let Meta do what it was doing, and simultaneously, we saw the actual campaign ROAS and our profit increase on the back end. All that to say, when you run things with an organized framework that works with Meta's AI, you're not only able to test things more efficiently, but you as the advertiser are also able to get the feedback loop of what works, so you know what type of ads to create more of. I'm uploading one video like this per week so you know how to scale your Meta or your Google ads. And so if that sounds useful, it'd mean the world to me if you subscribed. So now that we have framework number 2 worked out, we're able to produce more volume of ad testing, but volume only helps if you're able to actually produce more of what's working and decipher that from what was just luck or what's not working at all. And that's where system number 3 comes in, which is proper data interpretation. Essentially what this is, it's reading the data correctly to find real winners so you know how to fuel your ad account with more of what's winning so you can stop throwing spaghetti at the wall and guessing with your creative testing. And this is what gave us not only the ability to scale, but to scale quickly. And there's a ton of advice out there right now on how to optimize your Facebook ads account, but so much of it is either overly complex or it's just flat out wrong. And at the end of the day, there's really only 4 metrics that matter for understanding how ads are performing. And then if you zoom out a bit further, there's really only one thing that matters and determines if you should keep scaling or not. So before I dive in and share what these 4 metrics are actually telling you about your ads and if you should scale or not, let me explain firstly post-Andromeda how ads even work, because most people are still clueless and they measure ads in silos. And I'm sharing this right now, and the reality of it is in 2026, your ads are basically teammates. They have different functions, but they're all built around optimizing for one specific goal, which is usually purchases. And so what a lot of people see in an ad account is they have an ad, like one ad that's spending the majority of their budget and it's getting the worst ROAS. And so they usually pause it because they have other ads that aren't spending very much, but they're getting a lot of return on ad spend. And usually when you do this, what you end up seeing is at the campaign level, your ROAS actually drops. And so why is that? It's because you're punishing an ad that actually kept your funnel alive and able to scale your ad account. In most cases, ads that spend the most and get the worst ROAS are ads that are introducing or educating new people about your product or your service. These are often known as your top of funnel ads, and this is usually the first ad somebody sees in your whole ad account. And Facebook ads knows if they keep showing the same person the same ad, that the likelihood that they convert significantly declines over time. And so what they do is they try to show them a different ad to storytell. So if you have an ad that's introducing somebody to the brand for the first time or educating them on why they need your product, you're usually going to have a middle of funnel ad, and that can be something like a UGC ad and somebody talking about your product or giving a testimonial on it. And these more often than not are going to be the second ad somebody sees. And so you're typically going to have a bit lower spend than you would your top of funnel ad, but you'll have a better return on ad spend because now that they've been introduced to your product, they see somebody like them who's endorsing it and they're more likely to purchase on that second touch point. But still, people need more convincing. And so often they'll wait until an offer is thrown at them. And so what usually happens, you'll have a bottom of funnel ad, and this is the third teammate on the team, and it is an ad that has a offer on it. So a 20% offer attached to it, free shipping, whatever it is. And usually it's going to spend the least amount of money, but it's going to get the best return on ad spend. And so when you realize that these 3 ads cohesively meet together to scale your ad account and give it the ability to actually get a good ROAS, then you'll understand that looking at this top of funnel ad and pausing it is the worst thing you can do. And so if that's the case, well, what are the 4 metrics that actually matter that give you the ability to know if you should actually pause an ad or scale it? And basically, here it is. You have spend, frequency, CPM, and cost per result. Again, a lot of people, I have good and bad in quotes because it's all relative to the ads that are on the same team talking about the same angle and how they're performing collectively. And so ultimately, the way I judge ads for clients is 2 ways. If I launch a specific set of ads for a client and I notice that my campaign performance goes up or my back-end profit goes up, it's a winner. If it goes down, I'm usually trimming that. But the second thing that I'm looking at is trying to understand and interpret, well, why did it go down or why did it go up, and what ad should I give the most credit to? So at a high level, ad set spend is typically going to confirm that the ad was good enough to spend or not. If it's not spending, Facebook has already determined that this ad is not going to beat the other ads that are running in your ad account, and so it's not even going to give it a chance to spend. Frequency is going to tell you what position they play. If you have a average frequency in your ad account of 2 and you have anything over a 2 frequency, it's typically going to be a middle or bottom of funnel teammate. If it's under that, it's going to be more top of funnel funnel, meaning it's reaching more net new audiences. Now that is a general rule of thumb, but there are obviously nuances to this based on your own ad account and vertical. CPM is going to tell me the size of the audience, or if it aligns with Meta's goal, which is to keep user engagement high on their platform. The lower the CPM, the more Facebook is rewarding you for creating good ads. And so this is a good telltale sign of, am I total addressable market to people I'm trying to sell to, or at least the angle I'm approaching it from is very limited, or it's really scalable. Or number two, it's going to inform me that I need to create more ads like this because Facebook is rewarding me for creating good ads that are keeping people engaged on their platform, which is really what they care about. And then last but not least, I'm looking at cost per result, but not at the ad level. I'm looking at this, or the ROAS, at the ad set level to understand how my team is doing together. So I'm looking firstly at the ad set performance, and if it's doing well, I'm gonna keep scaling my campaign because I know my campaign is gonna allocate budget to the best ad sets that are likely to get me the best result. And then number two, if I'm trying to figure out what ads are working, I'm diagnosing and looking into individual ads to understand what position they're playing. Again, if it's top, middle, or bottom of funnel. And then from there, determining, oh, this style of bottom of funnel ad works really well across all of my ad sets. So I'm producing more formats like that, or more similar top of funnel formats that work really well. And so that's how I'm measuring things. It's both at a zoomed out level on the campaign performance trend, and then drilling into what's actually working at an ad level, but you have to do cohort analysis based on top, middle, and bottom of funnel ads. Otherwise, everything falls apart and you're just going to create more bottom of funnel ads, because it's usually the thing with just an offer on it that looks like it's doing the best, but when you realize it has one specific role, and that if you try to scale that one role without the other teammates, everything's going to fall apart. So make sure you're scaling, yes, based on the trend of your performance, but also understanding how to iterate at the ad level. And then once you've figured out what's actually working and scalable in your ad account, you now know how to talk to your designers, or you yourself, if you're creating ads using Claude or Higgsfield or whatever it is, you know what to prioritize. And I would say if you find something that's winning, 80% of your iterations or your tests should just be creating more of what's working. And then 20% should be you launching or creating ads that have new concepts or new angles or are talking to new personas. So I know that was kind of a lot, but at the end of the day, know your targets, have a dedicated framework or cadence for testing creative, and then know how to interpret that data so you can iterate faster and scale faster in your ad account. And with that said, now let me show you the actual week over week profit progression for this brand last month. So the very first 7 days of working with this brand, I scaled really aggressively because I saw a lot of potential, and we again had worked through our actual numbers, so I had a lot of confidence around things. So you'll notice I scaled, and the business owner got really nervous here because you'll see our net profit dropped to about $12,000 US, which was an 18% decline. But I had enough discipline and experience to know every time you scale really aggressively, you may take an initial hit on your actual profit, because every time you spend more money, there's a lag between people who are now seeing your ad for the first time and who are going to convert. And it usually takes, around 5 to 7 days before that initial investment starts to turn and actualize to new revenue. And so what you'll see is my exact point play out here in week 2, which is I kept scaling the money. I scaled another 38%, and net profit now went up from $12,000 US to $20,000, almost $21,000 US in a single week. You'll see our return on ad spend keep growing up. And again, like top line sales kept growing. And so things were going really well. And so I kept pushing scale. And here's the third week. Our third week, almost the same thing happened that we saw in week 1. I scaled another 33%. We were still making money. We still made 14K, but we dropped from almost $21,000 US in profit to about 14. And the reason why is because our actual MER, which is the blended ROAS, which is Shopify sales divided by ad spend, went down 15%. However, I did not panic. I held, because again, I knew the same principle would apply where scaling that much week over week, it would just take a little bit of time. And so you'll see I didn't scale anymore. We only scaled 3% more. So I pretty much held spend the exact same week over week. And what you'll see is profit went up 56% that same week. And it's because we got more efficient. And so it's almost cyclical. It works like an accordion. You scale and you do initially see ROAS or your MER shrink or your profit shrink slightly, and then it'll actualize. And then you scale again, and it's just cyclical thing. But at the end of the month, you'll end up with something like this. We scaled ad spend over 264% month over month, but our net profit went up 161%. Total sales on the Shopify store went up 229%, and our actual MER was only down 10%. So it doesn't matter about ROAS, chase your actual profit. And that's only possible when you implement the system that I walked through today. And if you're not exactly sure what to do when your ROAS drops, which by the way is guaranteed when you scale, watch this video next. It's going to solve that exact problem.